All right, we've got Nightbot in the chat. Let's see. What's up, dope? How you doing, man? What's happening? Let's get some music rolling here. We're gonna do some coding. Last time we got entity movement working in the most basic of senses. Um, Today we're gonna get random movements working. At the very least, try to clean up what we have because shit's getting complicated, and we got to make sure everything is tight so that so at the moment, entity random movement, like the events are being generated from the game state, but I think the individual entities should be the ones calling the code to generate the events, which means that they're going to have to operate from a certain context because they themselves won't have access to the game state, right? So it might actually be that the game state might have to be the manager for the entities, or might have to have a separate object to do that. But either way, um, that's how movement's handled at the moment, and we're going to have to find a way to make things real cohesive before we can move on to actually implement RPG elements. What game are you working on, Dope? Why don't you chat about that? Let's see. Just getting some beats going here. We'll listen to some other music as well. But to start with, I can relate. Alright, medicate up. Let's go. Alright. Let's go. That's a fun, true story I should tell y'all about the first time I ever smoked marijuana. And I'll do it in my Texas accent because this good old state was the first state that I ever tried it in. So, long story short, just about 20 years ago now, I first tried that marijuana and I was able to visualize equations in my brain. How? Well, first of all, I was placed into advanced mathematics when I was in middle school against my will because I had back surgery when I was 11 years old, as most of y'all know, and I was homeschooled for about 6 weeks by my teacher in the fifth grade. And one day, I don't know where I learned about exponents, but I was curious what they were and why there was a letter, why there was an X, and what that meant. And I asked my teacher about it, and he recommended to my parents that they place me in pre-algebra in the sixth grade, which isn't exactly all that advanced, but at the time, it was probably the most advanced thing that I had access to, right? So, like, I was a straight A student up until that point, and my grades just fell off the fucking cliff after that. I was just like straight A's and then a C in math. And every time I get a C in math, my dad would ground me from being able to play video games. Um, so my only motivation to even try was just to get my games back. But the fact of the matter was that for one reason or another, it was difficult enough for me to not fucking tear the shit off the roof, right? But I also noticed that between my back surgery and trying weed for the first time, I had this problem. And it was a problem I couldn't describe because the problem was so backgrounded that I myself was unaware of what was going on and where the problems were. I didn't have the language or the ability to understand what my problem was. And part of it might have been back pain. Um, yeah, calculus is fucking great. You understand, especially when you're driving a car, that you get to experience the three derivatives. Sorry, not the three derivatives. You get to experience the three. Actually, it is three derivatives um, of motion, right? You start with position, and then the derivative of position is velocity. The derivative of velocity is acceleration, and the derivative of acceleration is jerk or kurtosis. Uh, so, and past that point, I don't know that we have the ability to very easily visualize the meaning of certain things at that level. But like, especially in calculus 3, when you get into like real three-dimensional equations, and things get really interesting, and you can actually like visualize gradients and understand that like temperature and like heat are all very advanced complex structures that have real I'm starting to get into the weeds here. Um, like it doesn't take too much effort to be able to see how, if like position in 3D space is one thing, then going a step away from that, you can like visualize like waves coming off of this object, all changing in time, and anything moving in time already adds another dimension to whatever it is that you're trying to describe. So if something's evolving over time, like a three-dimensional object that becomes 4D, and then the possibilities of change become fifth dimensional, and from there, possibilities. And there's a really good video on this, kind of a Reddit style explanation of how to like visualize dimensions 1 through 12. But I've always thought that stuff was like really interesting. Um, and I don't know that I was smart enough to have ever visualized that stuff before trying cannabis. Uh, all I know is that I also got onto the dean's list in college, um, fully medicated to my needs. You know, smoking up at like 9 in the morning, then rolling into programming language class. Um, I only took 3 classes that semester, but they were all pretty tough. And I got straight A's. So, generally speaking, like for one reason or another, it's not always about the grade that you get either, but because some of that stuff's arbitrary. There's a good study involving judges giving out harsher sentences on average before lunch. Wow. Thank you, Octo. Appreciate that. Real talk. Um, I can't see the chat. Okay, the last thing you said. There's still a discount for it. Yeah, there's something called Sub September. You can see the underwear on my bed. I literally don't give a fuck. Um, Here, let's be visually aesthetic. There we go. Now you can just see the edge of the bed with some arbitrary blanket. And there we go. Satisfactorily there. One day, I'll have an office that is not next to my bed again. All right, let's get back to it. So, at the moment, the entities that I spawn at random move in one direction. It's very very static, but it's just to like get the movement working. We can now add another movement type and handle random movement at this point. The idea is simple. Given the entity's yx position, generate another yx that is adjacent to the entity. And then generate an event where that entity attempts to move in that direction to that location. If there's a wall or something they can't move into, then the rules should process in the same way for any given entity, assuming that the system is properly written. Um, so, and I've come to this conclusion based off of just like experimenting, right? Like we were in the previous episode attempting to store entities on the dungeon floor as opposed to each individual tile. Um, and I forget why I made that change, but it was a big deal. Big enough for me to need to do that because um, we also, well, one benefit to this is that we can potentially hold multiple entities on a tile, so things kind of get like weird, potentially recursive. Um, Plus, we can like move a tile out of one dungeon floor to another, so we could even have like a mechanic where we have like a floating carpet or something like that. I don't know. we could probably do some really weird stuff, is what I'm trying to say, and weird is good. Weird is unexpected. Like the knife catching mechanic in Skull, total accident, right? Like, what initially ended up happening was in attempting to implement Tempest, I had a version of it where you played as a skull and it went around in a circle and you were firing knives at eyeballs that would, spawn out of the center of the map. And somewhere along the way, I thought it might be cool that, what if you could move fast enough around the circle to like catch the knife? And I tried it out and it was kind of fun. But then I had the genius idea to, instead of making it around in a circle, to unwrap it and make it just like a side-scrolling shoot 'em up. Um, Once I got to that point, I was like, okay, this could actually become something. Um, but the thing is, it's totally unplanned, organic, and I don't have a far-reaching vision of what I wanted to do with what I want to do with it in the first place. And that's why I consider it game two. It's a game that I'm going to get to and actually do at some point. But first things first, things that come first must come first. Um, so, yeah, I was talking about Skull. Um, Octopus is aware of Skull. I don't know that he ever actually got to play it. Uh, Jubert played it on a call with me and spoke after he had told me that one of my servers got rooted back in 2016. And I remember Jubert gave out an audible noise when he first tried out the knife catching mechanic. Um, that was promising. Now, I wasn't even trying like then. Like what is effort, right? If it requires effort, I'm probably not going to do it. So the things that I end up doing are the things that are like, for me, easy enough. Um, no, Skull is not terminal based. Um, Skull is a side-scrolling shoot 'em up written in libstl. Uh, I forget if I did it initially in C, but I've gone back and forth and really need to just commit to fucking C++ at this point. Um, but the bigger deal with Skull was getting that full first level out, because I didn't have a clear vision of how to handle the programming for the first boss. Um, and I didn't have a vision for level 2. I still don't have a vision for level 2 through 6, because any good shoot 'em up needs 6 levels, right? Um, but that's still to come. That's down the road. Um, we have to first do the game that I initially set out to do in 2013, which back then I was doing it on iOS, but that's not a platform that I'm going to start working on anything for a long time, if ever, again. Um, movements. Do entity move. Uh, okay, so this will actually move an entity to a location. So this is something that gets executed off of an event. So if we're processing events and event type we're processing is an entity move, um, this one will just like straight up do the entity move. Let's see. Where's the place where I actually specify the location? Ah, handle entity movement back and forth. Okay, so this is an handle entity turn. And this will generate an event of type entity move with entity E to location YX, which we define here. So if we want to do random movement, we're going to have to define a new function. We can actually just copy this one and rename it. As soon as we do this, we're also going to update the .h file. Handle any movement random. Actually, we're going to do 0, 1, 2. But if we subtract 1, that would be -1, 0, 1. So do the same thing for x. Add that to your y and x, and then generate the same type of event. So down here, we're going to uncomment these lines, and then go into the game state. Go ahead and copy this line over. So now we have a new movement type ready to go. Now, where we actually create the new entities, when we're generating the entity, we're now going to generate random movements. That should be all I have to do for this to actually start rolling. If it was that little effort for me to implement a new movement type for any given entity generated, that's not bad. I'm very, very okay with that, because pretty soon we're going to be in a position where we can just start creating new types of things and just start adding rules for them and then testing them to make sure that everything still works, and then start slowly working on the RPG mechanics. Item inventory, equipments, stats, combat mechanics, additional actions that you can take that might modify the dungeon. food, hunger, etc. Alright, creating a new entity with random movement. Look at that. He's moving randomly. It's alive. It's alive. Alright, let's create another one. And another. And another. And let's open these doors up so they can actually navigate between locations. Let's go. I'm going to stand in the corner here and just let them do their thing. I want to see them all get into another room. Skyscraper. Skyscraper roguelike? Look at them. Like, they actually, like, 2 of them got into the top room, 2 of them are now in the left room. And this is just totally with, like, random movement. Like, this isn't even, like, intelligent. So, this is actually, like, really, really close to where I was at in 2013. It's interesting that the relay bot is copying from both Twitch and IRC. I guess that's like for anyone in Twitch chat because they can't see IRC. I don't know. Weird. Actually, no. Dope is chatting on Twitch. I don't know how this shit works. I'm fucking retarded sometimes. Alright, so now 3 of them are in the same room. Bottom left. Now, if I were to go downstairs and go back upstairs, they're still there in the same positions. Well, they move at least once. But yeah, like, I think they don't, I don't think I have it set up so that everything in the dungeon moves, because, like, there is going to have to be an ordering that happens. Like, in D&D, in Dungeons and Dragons, what happens if you're rolling for initiative and 2 people roll the same number? Let's say you have 18 dexterity, so you get +4 to your initiative roll, and you roll 20, so your initiative's 24. And let's say someone else also rolls a 20 and gets a +4 because of dex. What is the protocol? This is a test for y'all. I'm not 100% sure myself, because it's the same kind of question that I have to ask if I were to try and handle everyone's move in the dungeon, especially in a very large dungeon. What if we had 500 floors and I generate entities on every floor? Not only could this take a long time, but you could have lots of entities that end up colliding time-wise and having to resolve that conflict. What if there's a magic item that would allow you to take your turn guaranteed before others. These are things I have to consider as I start to think about the RPG mechanics. Not even combat fully yet, uh, but turn order resolution. Um, Making sure that things that have the speed, for instance, if you have some magic boots that make you move faster and act faster, we want to be able to handle for that kind of situation. But we need a baseline, and that baseline could very well be initiative. So everyone might even get different turn order depending on how fast they can move. Maybe Final Fantasy Tactics style, someone's able to move 2 steps in one turn, or like maybe you're able to like move as well as take a free action. You know, your turn could consist of more than one thing, but this is just something that we're going to have to kind of play around with and see what's going to end up being like makes the most sense, as well as not overcomplicated, because even doing this much there was a lot of complications, right? um let's see. So we're not doing any sort of real, I don't think, collision yet. Like when the player moves, check player movement gets called, which really I shouldn't be separating this between handle entity movement. Oh, is occupied. Maybe has entity. Is like the same thing. Maybe we should just return is occupied. That way we just have a different name for it. Even though it's the same function, same code, like at certain times I might think differently, you know, they both mean the same thing. So why not have kind of a way to alias or like reference one or the other using different language? Just the context might differ. And it's negligible in code size. And I might forget that, oh, the function's actually is occupied, or oh, the function actually is has entity. But in the end, they both mean the same thing. So if has entity, then we can't move in there. All right. So as you can see, oh, so he can move on top of me. Interesting. Uh, we need to check to see if the entity is moving into the player. Uh, do entity move. Uh, check to see if there is an entity. We also want to check to see if the YX is the same as the players. There we go. All right. It's on now. So this is essentially what combat would look like, right? I guess when we're in camera movement, we shouldn't be processing the enemy's turn as well. Or counting or incrementing turns. That's a bug. But let me go ahead and commit what I've got here. All right. So the bug there was with the camera. Right here. Also, input mode. Oh, we already included it down here. All right, so handle input. If gs get input mode not equal let's see input mode camera. Oh, okay, so camera mode, bigger, 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 bigger. Not camera mode. Oh, the switch back shouldn't count. Um, and C is not equal to C. There we go. Okay. I don't know why it's so important to me to have a camera system, but it's like one of the first things I always focus on when getting rolling with this kind of project. Uh, Being able to look top down and zoom in, I feel like is very important to me because even when writing code, I frequently go back and forth between different font sizes, just depending on how tired my eyes happen to be. All right, let's of glass and steel. Well, in NetHack, there are special dungeon floors that branch off from the main dungeon that lead off into different sections. Uh, Sokoban is one of them, and actually, this game is totally going to have Sokoban mechanics. Not going to be difficult to implement either. We're pretty close to that already. We're going to eventually need better dungeon floor generation. That's going to be interesting to think about and focus on. Yeah, there's like a whole dwarf thing. Um, like 10 floors deep. Like I've gotten at least halfway. Uh, it would be fun to do a NetHack stream. So I'm not very good. Uh, and but it's fun for sure. Just wish there were better inputs. Yeah, each of those floors are procedurally generated, but like there's a guaranteed access point where like on one floor you'll encounter like two separate sets of stairs. Yeah, dude. Like Yeah, dude, right here. In NetHack, Sokoban is a branch of a character, or hold up. In NetHack, Sokoban is a branch of the dungeon modeled on and after named after a game where the character is navigated through a series of levels. The object is to move objects that cover goal squares. Um, this is a real thing. Uh, Variants. NetHack. NetHack Brass does not change or add any layouts for Sokoban levels, but instead has a choice between an Amulet of Reflection, Cloak of Magic Resistance, and a Bag of Holding as the prize. All monsters will avoid stepping on or touching the items, preventing abuse via pets to retrieve unchosen prizes. Um, like, I definitely got to Sokoban in college, and an old friend of mine who introduced me to Gentoo Linux, his mom reportedly beat NetHack and Ascended. Um, which is the only person I've ever heard of IRL who's actually done that. Um, but yeah, a lot of what I'm doing here and why I'm doing it is because of NetHack. Glad to introduce you to something new today, Dope. I hope that livens your depression a bit. Maybe gives you a little bit of faith in mankind, as someone out there kind of knows a thing or two. So we got random movement working. That's actually great, and it was rather easy to do. Uh, Okay, so how long have we been going? We haven't been going long at all. Not even an hour. Um, let's think here. What can we do? It's 1:46 p.m. Oh, I have a part of a burger here. One I haven't finished for breakfast. It's got an egg on it and cheese. Thank you. There's all things in time, right? Like, see, the problem here is like actually calculating the size would mean iterating through each one of the entities. They have their own git size. So actually, to get the size properly, we have to get the size of the vector, and we have to go through and add the size of each entity. My expectation is that just with the addition of the vector on the tile, because there's so many tiles, the running the running total of the game is going to explode as a result of this. So maybe it might actually make more sense for this vector to actually be a shared pointer, because then, even though we're still keeping track of the reference, doesn't have to actually have an object on it. Hmm. So here we have to get the size of that plus. What am I looking for? Um, okay. So we're going to re-enable my magic function here that will display in the event log some stats about the game as it's running. Well, it says it's not using a lot of space, but how do we know that that's accurate? So it calls dungeon get size, right? This actually goes through and gets the size of each floor. And then adds it up. Get size on dungeon floor actually doesn't give us the size of the dungeon floor. So this is something we have to update. So we have to also take in consideration the map. Oh, it's good, man. Try not to put too much thought into the name right away, because okay, that seems more appropriate. Let's see. Oh, each one of those is triggering on top of the event log displaying the info I need. No longer see. Yeah, dude, procedurally generated is where it's at. Like the fact that more AAA game companies aren't like relying on it, it's absolute trap. It's like, what the hell are they doing? I mean, Blizzard can arguably got its massive success off of StarCraft and Diablo is heavily procedurally generated as a game that came out in the 90s. There we go. Looks like it's not doing too bad. So the idea is that for each dungeon floor, it should be going through and for each tile, adding up the size of each tile, which may or may not have an entity on it. And every time you create an entity, it goes up like, another 800 bytes, it looks like. Every additional event log message is another 100-ish. A little bit less. 28360. Alright, so that looks and feels kind of good. Oh, dude, I jacked this fucking interface off NetHack 4.0's split UI feature, which is actually kind of like very similar to the live uh, user interface that's built into Shirin 4, which I don't know if if that originally existed on the PSP version when it came out, like a long time ago, but the fucking Switch version came out in fucking 2015, and I'm pretty sure that's right. And still one of my favorite games, even after I discovered it hyper late. Put over $200 into it. I'm a fucking maniac, and I love crawling dungeons. Um, Actually, that would be something to spend my $15 on Steam on. Would be uh fucking grabbing a copy of Sheeran so that I don't have to load up my Switch to play it, and actually doing like a run through from the beginning on that game, because Sheeran is joy, man. So is NetHack, and the game I'm making is an homage to them. Um, it's my interpretation of an RPG engine and universe, and I'm gonna try and create unique things about it that feel correct. Um, oh, I only have 15. Still, that's not bad. They've got Sheeran on Steam for $20. I'm not sure it would run on my machine. either, since I'm on Linux. The emulation would have to hold up. It's okay, I have it on Switch, so it's fine. Um, just ranting out loud. Here, I'll type it in chat. Um, it's like an anime version of NetHack that's a bit stripped down, but still retains a lot of the basic elements. Um, dungeons are much smaller. Well, no, dungeons are rather big rooms with long hallways and not traditional doors. Um, with a unique set of spells and magic, limited items. Like most of the restorative items are like come in the form of herbs. Um, your equipment is limited to sword and shield, and two amulets or like wristlets that you can equip that do magical things. Um, it's still turn count based. You know, it's still like you take a move, everyone else takes a move. Uh, you get certain followers that can help fight. And there's also a daytime nighttime transition. There's a lot very unique about it, but and can definitely recommend. I don't know if actually it doesn't look like chats from IRC are going in both directions. So let me paste it in Twitch also. So let's see, where am I at? So we've got collision going. We've got some bug fixes that we took care of. Um, what else? Yeah, dude, not only have I talked about it, there's videos on my Twitch channel um, of old clips and run throughs I've done on that game. Really good. Let me see if I can pull one up real fast for the viewers. So it shows me live right now. So I can't necessarily navigate my clips without going to my creator dashboard and going to clips. Um, let's see. I don't know if it has my old clips. Oh yeah, no, I can go super far back. Let's see. Yeah, we got some old ass Sheeran clips. Um, yeah. Okay, here we go. Here we go. Okay. I'll link this clip. Check it out. That was a fun time.
Oh god, oh god, oh god, stop, 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 stop. What are you doing? Crazy, 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 crazy. Oh my god. Oh, he's fucking mad. He's fucking insane. Holy shit. Holy fucking shit. How am I going to get my.
Yeah, good times, good times. Um, they have a bunch of like custom dungeons that you can run through as well. Um, oh yeah, cleanup. It's a lot of cleanup that I'm gonna have to do. Uh, the main's starting to get a little hairy. Um, what do you mean where the entities are now? Oh, like yeah. What do you mean? They're able to move randomly, and they collide with each other, and they don't move through walls, and they don't spawn inside of walls. So, and also the player can't move into them, and they can't move into the player. So that's pretty great. Oh, they're actually stored on a per tile basis. Check it out. So like in tile.h, we have a vector called entities that stores all of the entities on that tile. So when they actually move from tile to tile, you have to remove it from one tile and then add it to the vector in the other. So it's a little extra work, and I forget, like I said, why I chose to do it this way versus having the vector on the floor. But it had to do with unwinding, I believe. And I definitely talked about it last stream or two. So I could go back and like watch that to find out why I did that. But it's working out. So the floor tile. Yeah. So handle entities turn would only handle entities on a current floor basis. So only the entities on the current floor would be able to act. So when you're moving from floor to floor, you don't have to worry about dudes coming after you. Generally speaking, this is how NetHack works. Except for after you take the book at the very end. In which case the wizard chases you from floor to floor. We could end up doing something similar. This doesn't really matter as much right now. At some point, we may want to actually create multiple different entity types that have varying movement patterns, sometime and even more intelligent movement patterns, where they actively work to move towards the player as well as circumvent any objects that it might encounter along the way. We'll get there. Recursive pathfinding is kind of trippy and fun. It's about time for me to take my Grace face out to PP, and probably about time for me to do something a bit more productive. Shit. Thank you, Dope. Appreciate that, man. We're just stepping backwards through the code, taking a look at any opportunities to make things a little bit simpler. There's something a little bit soothing about manually cleaning things up. I've never really been a big fan of a lot of auto code linters, and some people may be kind of averse to doing this sort of thing or decide, oh, it's not worth the time. But any product that you're working on is worth the time to clean it up, I feel like. What about shareholder value? Time is money. Well, if time is money, then it's time for good code. It's time for good, clean code. This looks alright. Still about the same number of lines as it was. But we'll have to be okay with the fact that it could get rather big. Uh-oh. (2,556) lines of code right now, not including comments. We still have to do proper testing for everything too, but trying to break things down into individual objects, how they interact with other things in the dungeon. So currently we're just working with entities and tiles, and entities walking over and moving from tile to tile. But eventually we're going to have items that will sit on a tile, and then a player or an entity might walk on top of a tile and decide that they want to pick up what's on the tile or something that is sitting on top of the tile, and we could have multiple things on top of a tile. Eventually we'll have treasure boxes, and then you can have some real crazy bag of holding type mechanics. Should be a good time. It is about lunchtime. It is about take Gracie out in PP time. I want to thank y'all for joining up. When I get back around to being at the computer, I've got some parsing and stuff that I need to be doing. So might take a back seat for game dev for a little bit so I can work on some other stuff, and we will stay in touch through social media, and think about, I'll probably work on this in my own time as well. But next time I go live, um, I'm not sure what we're gonna do with the game yet, but things feel pretty good right now. What the exact next step is not clear, but we'll figure it out. So, peace.